The founders clearly believed that an unarmed people would be vulnerable to tyranny, and that an armed people would be the best defense. One doesn't need to look far to find countries where the people were disarmed and oppression and mass murder followed. Nazi Germany inherited strict gun control laws from the Weimar Republic, but when Hitler came to power, he tweaked the laws to allow members of the Nazi Party to own guns and to prohibit Jews and other unreliables from owning guns. Hitler imposed a gun registry to identify gun owners, then later used the information for confiscation and applied the law to all the occupied territories conquered by the Nazis. The most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to permit the conquered Eastern peoples to have arms. History teaches that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by doing so. Adolf Hitler. In the Soviet Union, members of the Communist Party could own guns, but people were otherwise limited to owning nothing more than a smoothbore hunting rifle. Communist China also imposed strict gun control laws, with ownership tightly regulated by the Communist Party. Once their people were disarmed, both governments enacted policies that led to the imprisonment or death of millions. Our principle is that the party commands the gun and the gun must never be allowed to command the party. Mao Zedong. A recent example of gun control used as an instrument of tyranny is socialist Venezuela, where Hugo Chavez outlawed private gun ownership in 2012. Since then, violent crime has spiked, with the country's crime rate now the highest in the world. While the general population was disarmed, government thugs were armed and given free license to murder political opponents and protesters in the street. With only the government and criminals owning guns, the rest of the Venezuelan people are completely defenseless. Guns would have served as a vital pillar to remaining a free people, or at least able to put up a fight. Javier Venegas, Venezuelan teacher in exile, Fox News interview, December 12, 2018. Despite the evidence that liberal gun rights help deter government tyranny, many Americans believe it couldn't happen here, but in some ways, it already has. In 1946, in the small town of Athens, Tennessee, a corrupt local government engaged in predatory policing and voter intimidation to try to fix a local election. A group of returning World War II vets took up arms against the local police and stopped a stolen election. And when the Deacons for Defense and Justice took up arms to protect civil rights workers in the South, they were also opposing local government tyranny. The rifle hanging on the wall of the working-class flat or laborer's cottage is the symbol of democracy. It is our job to see that it stays there. George Orwell. Shooting prompting emotional calls for stronger regulation, some politicians have made it clear that disarming American citizens is a priority.
We can't just sit back and allow mass shootings to become commonplace in the United States. We've had more than one a month this summer.
They believe eliminating private gun ownership is the only way to end gun violence and is a prerequisite to creating a more peaceful and harmonious society. We're going to hammer guns on the anvil of relentless legislative strategy. We're going to beat guns into submission. Senator Charles Schumer.
It's going to take a while to get Americans to pry their cold, dead hands loose from their guns.
Some supporters of the Second Amendment have gone too far. In the 1960s, the Black Panther Party was formed in Oakland, California, to oppose police abuse in black neighborhoods. One of the democratic rights of the United States, the Second Amendment to the Constitution, gives the people the right to bear arms. However, there is a greater right, the right of human dignity that gives all men the right to defend themselves. Huey Newton, co-founder, Black Panther Party. Exercising their Second Amendment right, the Black Panthers began openly carrying firearms as they patrolled the streets of their communities.
And the police are there not to, in our community, not to promote our welfare or for our security and our safety, but they're there to contain us, to brutalize us and murder us.
But some Black Panthers ignored Martin Luther King Jr.'s call for non-violence and crossed the line into armed rebellion, engaging the police in shootouts and prompting a nationwide crackdown.
In December, police raided Black Panther headquarters in Chicago and Los Angeles. The officers had search warrants and raided just before dawn. Two Black Panthers were killed in Chicago. Police said the Panthers had opened fire when the police entered, but the Panthers denied it. They said the police had broken in and killed one man at close range as he slept. No one was killed in Los Angeles, but Panthers said that the police had started the shooting. Black communities in both cities tended to support the Panthers.
In the early 1990s, two tragic events fueled the rise of citizen militias that fear gun confiscation by the federal government. At Ruby Ridge, Idaho, in 1992, ATF agents were staking out the remote compound of Randy Weaver, a former Green Beret survivalist with apocalyptic religious beliefs who had failed to appear in court on firearms charges. An accidental encounter led to a shootout that killed one federal marshal, as well as Weaver's wife and teenage son. In Waco, Texas in 1993, the FBI and ATF surrounded the compound of the Branch Davidians, an apocalyptic religious cult that was stockpiling weapons. After Branch Davidians shot and killed 4 federal agents, the FBI and ATF assaulted the compound, leading to a fire that burned it down and killed 76 cult members, including 20 children. In both cases, federal agents were enforcing firearms laws on private property